Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for the personal computer or PC. Obviously, it's based on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which end up being an absolute masterpiece. Now, this game isn't really known across the entire gaming world as an absolute classic. However, for those who have played it, it is indeed a very good game, myself included. So I will be reviewing that very game. So let's begin.
Okay, just to let you guys know, all of this footage that you are about to see is from a Let's Play I did back in 2020. So that is why you will be hearing talk from me. So I will try to keep the talking from this Let's Play as little as possible. But there is unfortunately going to be some bits where you will hear it. So basically, this opening abridges a lot of the actual film and book to something that you don't really know enough about if you actually haven't read the book or seen the movie. Of course, this was at a time when the movie was brand new, so I think it's clear that you actually did went ahead to see it. But playing this now, if you have never ever somehow played this game before, yeah, I bet you will be a bit confused. So let's move from the storybook cutscenes to actual in-game cutscenes. And the first thing that you see are a lot of students running out from a separate room, one that we don't actually see what it actually is. And out of all of them, Harry Potter finally comes out. And he looks around this location. It's almost as if this is the very first second he has come to the school and he doesn't actually know where he is. And then we stumble into Professor Dumbledore, who is talking to Harry about all of the different things which is happening at Hogwarts. It's actually supposed to set up like this is a magical school, because a lot of things happen to him. Anyway, then it tells us that you actually have to head to the very first lesson. Basically, up the stairs and up to your lessons, don't be late. He says, Run up the stairs and catch up with Ron Weasley. Now he is going to introduce us to the tutorial of this game. And you can go anywhere after a small cutscene. However, despite as beautiful and amazing as it seems, there is really no reason to explore freely. There's hardly any other place to go other than forward to the location where you're supposed to go. Where you will meet Fred and George, Ron's twin brothers. As for Ron, he's not really joining. He just goes to the class. Now this tutorial is nothing special. It's all about jumping from location to location while collecting this game's main collectible, Bertie Bott's every flavor beans. Now this section, like I said, is not really that difficult. But what really elevates it is really a few things which will come up at several points in this game for being really well done. And that is the sound design and the atmosphere. The music, when it does happen, is pretty great. It was composed by Jeremy Soule, who specializes in atmospheric video game soundtracks, and he's done a stellar job on this one. It's just really great and very pleasant to hear. There are multiple points when this game actually does have a pretty strong atmosphere, and we get to them while we get to them. So after jumping across all these bookshelves, we arrive in a room where we have to collect all of the Bertie Bott's every flavor beans in this room. It's not really that difficult, it's just really easy, which can sum up this tutorial, but it's pleasant nonetheless. So after collecting all of the beans and giving them to Fred and George, they will give you a wizard's card. Now these ones, they're just the secondary collectible throughout the entire game. They're not really worth anything, you can't really do much with them aside from look at them. However, at the time, This was just real nice world building, and certainly something to really do while you're exploring this castle. And believe me, there are plenty of secrets. Also, you can just make him just screw around while picking up that card. It's actually really easy to do. Just jump straight at the card when you are about to take it. He just hover in midair. Sure, it doesn't really mean anything for the progression, but it's fun nonetheless. Fred and George then open up a hatch, which will take you to the very first spell lesson. But before we actually head to class, we are being introduced to Draco Malfoy and his two goons, Crabbe and Goyle. They're they belong to the Slytherin house, and they are certain they're going to win the House Cup and the Quidditch Cup. Something you should know if you read up on the books. And then, after they talk to you, it's time to do the very first spell lesson. So, this spell lesson is actually kind of clever when you really get down to it. So, basically, you have to use your mouse cursor and hold down the left button in order to navigate your wand through this entire shape. And the closer that you are doing it, the more points you will get. And the more points you will get, well, that's how likely it will be for Gryffindor to win the Quidditch Cup, as well as the House Cup. So yeah, there's a lot of things riding on these spells. And after a few attempts, which went okay, it is time to move on to the actual spell lesson with Professor Quirrell, who is the guy who taught you this spell in the first place. So now it is time for the Flipendo challenge, or what it really should be called, the Flipendo training. Yeah, there isn't really much of a difficulty in this game. So why is it called challenge? Well, to sound cool, I guess. So this is the Flipendo one, and you will have to use the left mouse button in order to charge up the spell and then unleash it when it aligns on what has to be pushed. And so after running through this hallway for a little bit, we approach the next room, where Quirrell is waiting. Where did he go? Well, of course it's magic. It is Hogwarts after all. So the Flipendo spell can affect few more things. The first one being this contact on the wall. If you Flipendo it, it's going to affect something later on in the course. And it can also knock over cauldrons, so you can gain access to Bertie Bott's AV flavored beans. That's about all you need to know for the core mechanic of Flipendo. Of course, there's gonna be other ways to use it, but these are the primary ways of utilizing its power. Along the way, you will be collecting challenge stars. Now, these stars add points to Gryffindor after the challenge has been complete. They're at different locations. They're not that hidden, although some of them do require a bit more search. However, they're relatively easy to get your hands on. Like this one, for instance. It's straight on this path forward. And so after pushing the switch, the bridge rotates, and we can now carry on to the next part of this challenge. The next big room introduces us to the Gryffindor house ghost, known as Nearly Headless Nick. Yeah, he's nearly headless. He's giving you access to the Save Game book, a book that when you touch, your game will automatically be saved, which means that you die or faint, as it's called, you will restart from the very Save Game book you touched. And after solving some very basic puzzles, we're going through the next corridor, and now we approach one of the most nostalgic bits of this entire game. For you see, this is a room which I happen to really love from when I was a kid. It is one that I always remember, because this is right before the main core challenge of this very challenge really comes in. And it is all about getting from point A to point B by jumping on these floating blocks that somehow is floating in midair or mad earth or whatever it's supposed to be. Just flip these Flipendo switches and they will all move around. But there's the question, why exactly is this black goo, or what is this void? And what are the noises coming from? Well, there is a theory that I had way back when, and it was supposed to be the basilisk. You know, the one that is in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Or maybe it's just the Shadowrun speaking. Maybe the Shadowrun traveled from Yu-Gi-Oh to Harry Potter, or some other reason. Now, the thing is, there's never any explanation given whatsoever. I don't actually think that there's any point else in this entire game when this one is actually used. So these are just used as a method of torturing students, so to make sure that they'll never showing up. So this is the last chamber, and this is the first time that we're introduced to a proper enemy instead of just the environment around us. This is known as a gnome, and they will do anything to take away your beans. And by doing anything, I mean they run towards you and attack you. Also take away some of your health. They're not really that hard to get rid of, but they are somewhat annoying. So make sure that you are just attacking them with Flipendo, because once they're affected, they will simply just be flipped over and they cannot do anything to move around. The only thing that they will do is just to moan and moan and moan and moan until you have left the room. They will never stop. Do I think that that is very challenging? No, but like I said, it is really annoying if you don't take care of it. They will steal as many beans as possible, well, 3 at a time, but if you don't take them before they do, well, they're lost forever. So, after taking the very last challenge star, this challenge is complete, and we gained all of the possible points for Gryffindor. Now, the next part is all of a cutscene explaining their first few days at Hogwarts. And after that cutscene happens, well, it is time for the very first, well, and only broomstick practice with Madame Hooch. Now, you would think that a lesson involves a lot of students doing the exact same thing, right? Well, that is just the complete opposite of this class, because no one except for Harry is doing things. Why are they even there? They're not cheering, they're not clapping, they're not making any sounds whatsoever. Where is Draco Malfoy? Where is Neville Longbottom? Where is anyone at this point in time? They are just random students here, not doing anything. Like I said, just like stand-ins in this entire lesson. It's just always Harry, 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 Harry. So, anyway, so this part is all about flying through as many rings as possible, thus being more points. You're just controlling this broomstick with the control keys, of course, that being the arrow keys. And you speed up using shift. I gotta say, this is one of the downsides of actually playing this game on an actual keyboard, because the flying isn't very precise. For you see, whenever you play a game with buttons, it becomes more of a digital input. It's not really an analog output where you can push the control stick in several directions to gain speed or lose speed. This timer isn't really that very friendly. It is a really short time span where you have to basically speed up as much as possible while still keeping track of the controls. It's actually kind of difficult because the rings are changing formation and sizes as various points in at this level. So no, it's not going to be as easy as 1, 2, 3 getting all of these rings. As a matter of fact, you really have to take this extremely serious. If you are too slow or simply just do something which is hindering your progress, well, tough luck, you won't get all of the rings. That is actually a challenge for all of you. If you can get all of the rings, then send me a comment and I will really award you. And even during my best days, I couldn't collect enough rings to get the best score possible. Well, this attempt wasn't actually that awful. I actually did gain a fair amount of rings, more than half. But of course, that wasn't nearly enough for me to actually gain all of the points possible, meaning I didn't get the highest score. So now I am finished with broomstick practice, and it is now time to go on to the next part of this castle, as well as the next part of this game. And that one being the Alohomora test. And it is Hermione for some reason. I do want to throw something that wasn't included in the movie or the book, but it's included right here. Hermione's character introduction. Yes, in the book and the movie, Harry and Ron met Hermione at the Hogwarts Express. Although at this point, it's only Harry that meets Hermione, and it's right before a lesson. Anyway, she has somehow learned the spell on her own, which is known as Alohomora, the unlocking spell. And guess what? It's shaped like a keyhole! Who could have guessed? And yeah, during this lesson, after several attempts, I have hooked up a fair amount of points. How did Hermione gain access to give out points? She's not a sanctioned teacher, right? Can't official teacher be the only ones to give out points? That was established in the movie and the book. But does that apply to the game? Who cares? They're not answering, so why should I try? So anyway, now it's time for some training, and this training obviously is about unlocking things. And you can unlock chests, you can unlock mirrors, you can unlock paintings, and you can unlock your heart for somebody to love. Oh, how cute. Just remember one thing with this challenge. Just don't try go looking for stars. Since this is not an official challenge, there are no stars to collect. You are just learning this spell. But you can actually skip all of this. You don't have to unlock anything. You can just pass through these chambers. Sure, you have to attend the lesson, but you don't have to worry about doing everything possible. But of course, that is all based around if you want to collect as many goods as possible. Because believe me, Alohomora is a very important spell for getting everything possible. And not just at this section, at plenty of more places. So keep your eyes open. And so after passing through this bit, it is finally time to do the next spell lesson. Yeah, 3 lessons in like half an hour of gameplay. That is pretty tight, isn't it? The schedule must be like one day, like many lessons at one day, and that's it. So yeah, this next spell that we're going to learn is none other than Wingardium Leviosa, that iconic spell from the movie. Yes, this spell would actually be utilized in-game. Wait, what you might be thinking? Well, you will find out after you have learned it. And the shape of this spell is a W. Just pass it as many times as possible and you're golden, and it's time to tackle the Wingardium Leviosa challenge with Professor Flitwick. And so after that is done, it is now time to begin this Wingardium Leviosa challenge by actually learning how to use the spell. So basically, you can hover objects up in the air, or like one object. Yeah, you can only take these blocks. There isn't really much of a usage of Wingardium Leviosa aside from this part. Is it a bad idea? Absolutely not, but Flipendo and Alohomora affect more things than one. So why doesn't Wingardium Leviosa do it? It's supposed to be the levitation spell. So anyway, different room, different environment, but now it's time to talk about a major flaw this challenge has. For you see, the Flipendo challenge was at least aesthetically different. It actually did look like an actual room at different chambers for an actual challenge. However, this section, as you will see, just looks like a freaking part of the castle, like people would actually go there. It looks stunning, it looks great, it looks beautiful, it looks like a place you want to be. However, there are challenges along the way. You can't just go here and spend so loving time together with friends. You actually have to know Wingardium Leviosa to get to this section. And who knows, I am the only one who has learned Wingardium Leviosa thus far. And there hasn't been anyone else learning that spell. So what's the point of even having a spell lesson then? If I'm the only one learning it. Sure, I am the pro type, but would it really be kind of hard to actually give the illusion that other students are actually learning the spell too? But you get my point. So after being assaulted, as well as solving a very basic puzzle, it is time to do the very first thing in this entire game. It is time to actually head outside and listen to this very beautiful music. So anyway, nice with outside, isn't it? Well, it would be even nicer if there weren't certain death if you don't actually jump. What is it with this game and its obsession with black voids down there? And yeah, there isn't even any sort of sound effects. It's just completely black. Maybe it was the limitations at the time. Maybe it was because the programmers didn't have enough time to do so. But whatever the case may be, this castle is showing out to be actually rather dangerous location for anyone who wants to be there, or at least right here. Forget what I said about students just hanging out there. It's dangerous. Of course, if any student want to risk dying, then sure, set up a fika table and some chairs. I don't care. Do you really want to see Unreal Engine giving its all? Well, here you go. Speaking of which, let's talk about the engine that this game is running on. It was developed through Unreal Engine. It's the most useful video game developing tool of our time. Way back when, before it was introduced, game developers and studios have to make their own game engines from scratch while developing games. But when it was finalized and released, it became a viable option to make games. The first video game ever to completely be used by Unreal Engine was Jurassic Park Trespasser in 1998. Although due to the fact that it was really graphic intensive, no regular computer could actually run it. You needed a very special computer. And it has over the years become pretty much the only game development tool that developers are using. And now what's awaiting before completing this challenge is just a test of patience. For you see, the door over there is on the other side. That opening till you're done with the challenge. However, now we have to wait for this platform to come over. It goes in 4 different directions. But what does this have to do with the challenge? This has nothing to do with Wingardium Leviosa. What is the challenge in all of this? Well, finally, we are on actual ground and we can go through the door to finish the challenge. Something that is done. Congratulations to me, and to me. Professor Flit will give us all of the possible max house points. Thank you so much. It is now time to actually go outside a lesson and just chill in the castle for a little while. Now we have reached the next point of the castle, and this is the very first time you can actually explore it. Yep, up to this point you have been forced to go a set path, but now you can be roaming around for free. Sure, there ain't much to see right now, but believe me, seeing this castle in full, after reading it in the book and watching the movie at the time, this must have been mind-blowing to see. And this is actually also a mention for the very next class you are going to have. That one being herbology, and you get a letter sent to you by Hermione who tells you to hurry up. Spoilers, there ain't no limit. But one thing will change everything. You thought Resident Evil was scary? Well, get a load of this. It's a jump scare by Poltergeister Pives! And this one you are supposed to be shooting Flipendo while he's flying around. But if you actually are quick enough, you can just blast him 3 times and he's defeated! He actually appeared only in the book but not in the movie. Now there was a reason behind it. He actually was in the movie as we learned in the bonus material. Although because the children kept laughing, he was excluded. So they had to justify certain things happening in different ways so that they could compensate for not him being there. And then Fred and George appears and you give them enough beans for them to give you a wizard's card. Now, it is for a reason they want all of these beans. But for what reason? Well, it's not explained. Later on, my friend. You know, speaking of something told sooner rather than later are the amount of glitches you can perform. Yeah, this game is very glitchy. Of course, there ain't any game-breaking glitches. It's just a few minor glitches in ways you can perform if you simply just do one simple action in a different way. Such as here that you saw. Now, despite the fact that it's a game from 2001 and it's rather limiting in the amount of things you can do as well as the lack of difficulty, I must say that searching around the castle for secrets is actually quite pleasant. They ain't too difficult to find, but it doesn't mean that you aren't finding something interesting about finding them. Such as this, there are a lot of mirrors you can cast Alahomora on. or Flipendo to access different ways to open up certain places to find other secrets. It actually is more fun than what you can imagine just hearing this. And now we are reintroduced to Crab and Goyle. Remember those goons from the beginning of the game? Yeah, they're here, and they're warning you about Malfoy being around somewhere. But of course you cannot actually attack them. Harry's just standing there, just quiet and stoic, not saying a single word. Yeah, that's a thing I haven't mentioned yet. Harry has almost no character to speak of. Sure, in the book and the movie he does, but in the game, he's just standing there stoic. He's almost like the PS1 version where he very rarely talks. He really only do it a couple of times, but it doesn't really contribute to much. And finally, we're introduced to Neville Longbottom. Yes, his name is Neville Longbottom. He has his remember all with him, which is something that you use so that you can remember something if you've forgotten it. And he warns you about Draco Malfoy lurking around somewhere. He will, like him, appear at several points throughout this game. He has appeared yet again, and this time he is ready to battle. Unfortunately, not in a wizard battle. Only really in a wizard cracker one. Yep, wizard crackers, which he throws out and then you throw them back right at him. But the music, man, this music is intense. It's kind of difficult if you don't know what you're doing. Basically, you are moving around on a grid. You can only move left and right, as well as throw wizard crackers. Not that difficult, but like I said, somewhat if you're not actually prepared for it. But after he has been defeated, he just runs up the stairs, or rather, hovering up the stairs. Yeah, that is kind of odd. I didn't know that he was a ghost, but maybe there are some secrets he hasn't told him. Now, for the foreseeable future, he's going to be the antagonist. Not very often though, but he will appear at least once more. Now, let's exit this place and let's head outside. Yes, you are going outside. Incredible, huh? And now, you will all be in for a wonderful surprise. It's PS1! No, wait, sorry. I meant PC Hagrid! Yes, he's now talking to Harry about certain things, how things are growing fast around here, and how he's the gamekeeper. I didn't even know there was a gamekeeper at Hogwarts, but oh well, maybe he's the one saving the safe us. So yes, he's telling you a few things about this castle, but then and he also mentions that it's time for her biology class. Yeah, this is not PS1 Hagrid, who would actually just send you somewhere to a very dangerous place. He's actually kind of peaceful in this version. He's just telling you a few things that you can just do. But sadly, despite that, there ain't that many things you can actually do. Sure, you can walk around places, it's semi-explorable, but there's only one secret which you will see right now. And then there's just whatever, you cannot go anywhere. This gate over there, it's closed, and you cannot head to the Quidditch pitch, and you cannot head to broomstick practice. Yeah, it's kind of barren really, but I understand that you cannot simply just let the player roam around free. You are supposed to follow a set path. Yeah, it's sort of like a free roamer, but at the same time, it's not. There is just a few too many restrictions for you to head anywhere while you are around. But of course, you understand that. That's limitations that the game will be flowing on. Yeah, no one gonna say it. I have a feeling that Professor Sprout, the professor who you will have class with, is sort of a sociopath, and you will find out soon enough. But I let you know that it's not pleasant at all for Harry to go through. It's like a gauntlet. So this gauntlet is divided into two parts. The first one involves these sections, where you have to flip over these Flipendo switches to open up the gates. Along the way you will be facing off a brand new type of enemy, the Fire Snail. Now you can cast Flipendo to handicap them, or you can walk into them as well. Of course you do lose health. This is the only enemy you can actually walk into to stop them. Of course only temporarily. So the next section is a lot more different than the first section. While this one was rather straightforward, this one is really confusing. Do you want to know why? Do you really want to know why? Well, it's because it's a hedge maze. And while you could paralyze the enemies of the previous one, in this one, you cannot do anything against them. It is these bite plant things. Yeah, you simply have to avoid them by simply timing your jumps. So the idea behind this section is for you to find a key to open up the gates. Not really an object key, but more or less you have to solve a key-based puzzle. If you can find it and then fulfill the task, then you are golden. You will then be able to get to the herbology class. So this section is actually kind of neat. You know how the game has been looking very blocky so far? There hasn't really seemed to be much freedom. Well, this section really works within the game's favor, since it's just a hedge maze. You are clearly locked into one. You actually have to finish it to get around. Well, this level design actually do complement the game's limitations perfectly. From every nook and cranny, you know what's awaiting you, but that's what works really well about it. As well, not only is the puzzle really well made, but so are the secrets. You really have to really look around in order to find all of the secrets. Like this one right here. You know what? Let's talk about something which I feel this game does really well that modern gaming simply cannot replicate. It is the idea of atmosphere. Way back when in the early 3D era, gaming companies really wanted to push their franchises into 3D. Some of them succeeded while some of them didn't. But in general, the one thing that they had to do was to simply have limited rooms and vision in front of you. And that created certain times a lot more atmosphere, which was really great. The prime example of that is the original Tomb Raider from 1996. That was amazing to actually feel the atmosphere. It was really felt. It's kind of hard to describe it, but you simply feel it. Another example of atmosphere done really well is the All-Star resting area for Super Smash Bros. Melee. You know that area where you're in before going to the portal in the All-Star mode? And you see a park behind you? Yeah, how many Smash players who has played that section non-competitively has actually been wanting to get to that park bench and just stare at the sunshine? Yeah, plenty of you, I assume. You know what? Let's talk about something which I feel this game does really well that modern gaming simply cannot replicate. It is the idea of atmosphere. Way back when in the early 3D era, gaming companies really wanted to push their franchises into 3D. Some of them succeeded while some of them didn't. But in general, the one thing that they had to do was to simply have limited rooms and vision in front of you, and that created certain times a lot more atmosphere, which was really great. The prime example of that is the original Tomb Raider from 1996. That was amazing to actually feel the atmosphere. It was really felt. It's kind of hard to describe it, but you simply feel it. Another example of atmosphere done really well is the All-Star resting area for Super Smash Bros. Melee. You know that area where you're in before going to the portal in the All-Star mode? And you see a park behind you? Yeah, how many Smash players who has played that section non-competitively has actually been wanting to get to that park bench and just stare at the sunshine? Yeah, plenty of you, I assume. Anyway, back to the game. So after everything's said and done, after all of the puzzles have been solved and the gates have now opened, we can finally enter the very few meters to get to the house for the herbology class. But of course, before we properly enter, we have to get a secret, and it's the one over here. Pretty clever, I must say. And the award you get is a famous Witches and Wizards card. Of course. Just look over there. It's Neville and Hermione. They got to class before me. How the heck did they get past the gauntlet? And guess what? I'm not allowed to enter before them because Freddy George over here wants me to trade my beans for a famous Witches and Wizards card. What if I don't want to? Well, guess what? It's not optional at all. You actually have to give him the beans before you can actually pass through. Come on, guys. I'm late for class. Just let me get there. Aren't you supposed to be having class as well? Where are you going now? Okay, fine. Just get kicked out of class and this school. I don't care. The card, by the way, it's Godric Gryffindor, one of the founders of the 4 Gryffindor houses. I bet you can't guess which one. Anyway, let's just head to class. At least I will pass. So anyway, the name of the spell is known as Incendio. You can tell Professor Sprout is indeed a vegetarian because of the shape of this spell, and it's shaped like I won't say it. But if you are a vegetarian, you know what I'm talking about.
Alright, let's go. It's the form of an onion. Or garlic, maybe. I don't know.
And so, doing everything I possibly can to get as high of a score as possible, it is time to move on to the actual challenge. And for once, it actually is a challenge. Big shocker, I know. So after this point, the spells that we have been learning are, kinda harmless. Well, this spell is fucking ferocious. Do you want to know why? Because this one is killing plants and everything else in the Green Kingdom. Sure, she says that they're just wilted, but the truth is, when you look at what they look like after the spell has been cast, you'll understand what I mean. So this is the first spell, which is outright offensive. Up to this point, we have been using spells to actually perform different actions and solve different puzzles. But this one, well, it's just used to actually attack enemies. There are two enemies. Firstly, the one I just attacked on the spiky bushes. They're just attacking you by throwing out nails at you. You can just walk into them to kill them, although that does take away health from Harry. So I just recommend using Flipendo. And then there are these venomous tentaculars. One of the most potentially lethal enemies in the entire game. They're just biting on and on and on and on. And do you want to know what? Forget what I said about it killing every plant. It just really kills the spiky bushes. Incendio just handicaps them for a little while, and then they recover, but not weaken or anything. They just simply keep on biting on and on and on and on and on. Remember what I said about this spell not containing any sort of puzzle elements? Well, I was wrong, sort of. For you see, there are several sections, at least in this challenge, where the spiky bushes are hiding certain secrets. Now that is a puzzle, but at the same time not. You simply just have to fire Incendio so you can get the chest that's in the actual planter box. However, I just have to wonder why the planter box right here is just so weird. It's just so weirdly shaped and so weirdly designed. Why did they place like a little area in the middle? Why is there a chest there? Was that intentional, or is it just placed there for level design? Who knows? I certainly don't know, and the game never explains it. Yeah, you see the tree up there? Yeah, it is actually meant to be a puzzle, and a very clever one at that. Because you actually have to cast Alohomora on these bookshelves to flip them down. And then there's a flipendo switch on the other side. Do this 4 times and flip over all this. You can reveal a pretty interesting secret. It's actually necessary if you want to 100% complete this challenge. Now, at the time, this would actually have been kind of interesting to see. Sure, nowadays there's nothing new. Puzzles are really easy or next to nothing. But at the time, not bad level design, EA. Not bad. It contains a challenge star and the famous Witches and Wizards card. Anyway, let's talk about the very next enemy this game introduces to us. And it is known as a Doxy. They're basically like flying creatures who is just following you, and you have to wipe them out with Flipendo. But the thing is, flying creatures in games are usually not that awful. But since Harry is actually being pushed back when he's attacked, well, you actually have to try to attack them to kill them basically. This room is all based around you having to kill these plants, which is hurting this tree. And once you've done that, these platforms will be lowered so you can get a challenge star. It's not really that difficult. However, you are being pushed back when you touch these plants. So if you are doing a speed run, make sure that you don't touch them. So now let's enter through this door and let's do a treehouse challenge. And now I think it's about time to actually talk about what this game does really well, but unfortunately it doesn't work here. The atmosphere. Yeah, as I said before, the atmosphere is what makes this game shine really well, and the level design as well. Unfortunately, I would say this is like the weakest bit in terms of atmosphere in this challenge. There simply isn't enough of these warm and beautiful colors. And now, the enemies aren't really that dynamic. I mean, whenever the gnomes appear, they're making sounds, and when they're on screen. However, you can hear a lot about these venomous tentaculars at a distance, at basically every point. They aren't dynamic, they aren't moving about. They're in the same location all the time, just biting on and on and on and on. Sure, that makes them more lethal and they stay true to the idea of this challenge. But I don't know, they aren't as dynamic and as atmospheric as I would like them to be. In short, it's almost perfect, but there's something tiny which doesn't make it that perfect. Because perfect is subjective. Okay, so now we enter a genuinely good puzzle. You have to get this contraption to spin around so that the plants will do exactly that. And then you have to get the water sprinkling system to function too. So that the water can feed these plants so that the door can open up. Yeah, this challenge is actually split up into 2 parts, which is a first for this game. If they were to make one continuous challenge without anything in between, yeah, I think it would just sort of ruin the frame rate and it most likely wouldn't run as smoothly as it does. And yeah, this puzzle is pretty great, it's pretty inventive, it has a correlation to this challenge. But of course, you are not using Incendio to help to solve this puzzle. You are using Flipendo instead, something that is very common in this challenge, as well as in this game. Only Flipendo and Wingardium Leviosa are the ones used the most, although Flipendo takes the cake. Does it really mean that the other spells didn't really have that much to do with puzzles to begin with? Well, I just don't know. There is the possibility that it's kinda tough to come up with creative and unique puzzles for every spell in this game. And if so, well, I just have to accept it. Well, now the water sprinkling and the contraption is spinning around at a slow pace. So you know what that means? The first part of this challenge is finally complete, and it's about time to move on to the second part. Let's go! Now, that was unexpected. See from this, my friends. This is where it's genuinely difficult. Just look at this venomous tentacula. This is the first and only time this variant ever makes an appearance. Yes, at normal points in this game do you ever see it. So if you absolutely love this anime and want to see it more and more and more and more, well, just spend your loving hours at this very point. This is the last time you will ever see it throughout the rest of the game. Speaking of which, this is one of the only few upgraded enemies. Yes, every other enemy that you will be facing from this time forward are simply just those that you have met earlier. They don't really go through some sort of upgrade or becomes more aggressive. They are just always the same. Yes, this Tentacula is the only one that I gained some sort of upgrade for later. Do I like it? Yeah, absolutely I do. Unfortunately, yeah. So this is the first time you actually have to annihilate before you can move on. For you see, up to this point, you have been able to avoid these plants. Sure, need to open a door by defeating them. However, being in the same room as them hasn't actually been lethal. However, this is the first time you actually have to use Incendio to stun them, so that you can actually pass right through without actually being attacked. And this is like a situation where you can just run up to the walls. They will reach you no matter what. Alright, so let's talk about this next big room. Now, this is like the most beautiful location in this entire challenge. Just look at this. It's a darker room with lots of venomous tentacles that are gigantic. And the thing is, most players at the time would just pass right through it without even thinking. But you see, there's a ledge that you can climb up on. And once you actually climb up on it, you just have to keep jumping up and up and up on several levels so that you can reach another challenge door as well as some other collectibles. And the thing is, when you look in these windows, the seasons are changing. So it becomes winter, spring, summer, and autumn. This is like the only time in the entire game when anything is changing depending on where you are. Yep, this is the only point where you can actually see different seasons depending on where you are. A pretty cool feature, and this would actually have been a benefit if there was actually dynamic environments, you know, with the day of time was changing. But of course in a way that it makes it seem believable, instead of just being a constant modern day automatic mechanic which has absolutely nothing to do with the game actually feeling dynamic. Just a simple change of scenery or season every once in a while would do wonders. And now we have a ride into a hedge maze, which isn't really a hedge maze. There ain't much confusion, you know exactly where you're going. after everything's said and done, after that amazing time, it is time to do the final puzzle, and thank goodness there isn't any danger to it all. You just have to flip the handle switches so you can get this fountain flowing with water. And it's real easy and calm compared to what we just faced. But oh man, that was a lot of fun. So the challenge is finally done. We collected all of the challenge stars and we now get all of the most possible points. After everything's said and done, it feels really great. Now it's about time to move on from the challenges for a while and then focus on the next part of the game, which happens to be broomstick practice with Madame Hooch. So after everything's said and done, the challenge is complete and Hagrid meets us up in the garden, where he talks to us that we are invited to his hut for some tea later, as he needs help with something. But like said, we have to head to our broomstick practice first. But of course we have to do the obligatory collecting. Of course, there is some time before the next part begins, but of course, you can't just head into the castle, you can do whatever. You actually have to stay in the garden until the next few events is being locked up. And remember what I said when it was time for broomstick practice? Well, I did say it was broomstick practice, and it technically is. However, Malfoy has stolen Neville's the Remember All, so there won't be any traditional broomstick practice. Instead, you have to do a chase on a broomstick in order to get back the Remember All that Malfoy stole. Now, I will say this, the acting for this very scene is actually quite pleasant. Just take a listen, the voice actors are giving it their all.
How about you destroy it? Oh my god. That laughter.
Think you can catch me? Come on then, Potter.
That sounded real evil. But yes, this is a...
Here comes Neville. He looks quite upset. Best go and see what he wants.
Oh my god. That laughter.
Think you can catch me? Come on then, Potter.
That sounded real evil. But yes, this is a...
Do you know what I think? I think someone should get some child safety at this school. Because now what you're about to witness is an extremely dangerous task for Harry as a 10-year-old. You know, in the movie and the book, they aren't exactly in danger when this is happening. But no, in this game, Malfoy is throwing freaking bludgers at Harry. They must be avoided, and then you must push the shift or jump key in order to hurt him. Is this difficult? Well, not really. The only thing that you need to keep track of is to speed up. Because if you don't speed up, Malfoy basically just sits there on his broomstick, taunting you. It's not that difficult, but it can be quite annoying if you don't actually pay attention. The music is intense and the action itself is perfect. But finally, after some time, Malfoy is finally defeated and he gives you back the Remember All. So, let's go to Hagrid's hut, and the only time in the entire game where you are traveling outside the castle grounds. And you expect it to be just a peaceful walk a few meters? Well, not really. It's a gauntlet. Not really, it's a gauntlet through a rather dangerous area filled to the brim with plants and spiky bushes. Insane really comes into his own here. Now thankfully they didn't show how Hagrid actually got through all of this to his hut. It would be a nightmare trying to make it fit logistically. Sure, it's magic, but you get my point. Not really, it's a gauntlet through a rather dangerous area filled to the brim with plants and spiky bushes. Insane really comes into his own here. Now thankfully they didn't show how Hagrid actually got through all of this to his hut. But you know what? Up to this point, most of the platforming and the placements of the obstacles has mostly made sense. It has at least been from one point to another. Like for instance, you travel through Hogwarts, you went through a challenge, you have just been traveling on a broomstick. All up to this point, most of these have been making sense. But now that you are going through this entire gauntlet just to reach Hagrid, it just become a logistical nightmare. Why? It's obvious that they more or less just made a platforming challenge first instead of making it like a dynamic environment. This game did so well, and yet now it fails miserably. But maybe he just wanted peace and quiet. He seems to be a rather calm person. Now I can only assume that he got all of these placed up thanks to Professor Sprout. You know, given how dangerous her garden is, there is the possibility that she placed them out here on his behalf. But you know, after playing this game for a while, I've come to the realization that very few things actually matters to you when it comes to Harry as a character. In other versions and games, you actually do collect Wizard's Card to have an increase in your health. But in this game, you never really gain any sort of increase or any sort of upgrade to anything. Sure, you learn new spells, but these spells don't really become more powerful or any sort of upgrade like I've stated before. There probably is a reason to collect all of these things, but unfortunately it's not really an instantaneous reward. Believe me, it does happen later. Does it take away from the game? No, it doesn't really, but it would be nice to gain some sort of reward. Oh well, I guess atmosphere is the biggest award. You know what, I haven't actually talked about the final goal that you were going to do before you got to Hagrid's hut, and it's quite easy. You have to travel wherever you need to travel in order to turn this giant log around that you travel through in the beginning. Yeah, that is the eventual goal of this section. Now, as you can see, it hasn't really been that difficult, although that's more or less just the thing with the game. The difficulty doesn't really increase, but it's not really like a problem. Well, at least not for this game. But yeah, once you have actually spun the log around, you can finally travel safely over to Hagrid's hut. But not before you're going through this final section. As for the collectibles, well, they're quite easy to see, but they are really fun to go through. But that can just be said about this game as a whole, at least in my opinion. Bravo, developers, bravo! See, that was actually quite a clever secret to get through, because you didn't actually know that you had to attack a snail, and given how very few of these snails actually do pose a challenge or is really seen to be any special, as a matter of fact none of these are special in the slightest. Well, except for this one, which I really appreciate. This is actually something which you don't really see coming. You really have to put your thought skills to the test to actually reach it. Alright, we're finally finished with this section, and it's about time to experience one of the most beautiful things in this entire game. Let's talk. Yes, finally. See, I hope it's really strong.
Hagrid's hut.
Come along then, I've something to show you now.
Thank you.
By the way, congratulations on making the Quidditch team.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Harry is on the Quidditch team now.
Yeah, the thing is, last time I played, it took like 5 minutes for his cousin to build, where it was really like 40 seconds or something like that.
Welcome to my home, Harry. It's small, but still roomier than your cupboard under the stairs, eh?
Okay, it's like a minute or something like that.
Now I can show you what I wanted to talk to you about. It's a dragon's egg, Harry. But it's our secret, mind you. The egg is at a very delicate stage.
Oh my god.
I can't leave it here alone, but I need some fire seeds to give it that last burst of heat to make it hatch. Harry, can you fetch me some fire seeds?
Why?
I grow them in caves out in the garden.
What the fuck?
I need you to collect as many fire seeds as you can find.
But why do I have to?
Though, they're spitting fire and the seeds are hot. Let them cool down before you pick them up. Off you go then.
You know what?
Yep, it's now time to collect some fire seeds for Hagrid, and that means we're going to head out into his garden. But how the hell does Hagrid even get down there? He's like a big giant, and he probably doesn't jump. So how can he actually go down into these caverns to get these fire seeds? How often does he need to do that? It would be one thing if he was like breaking gold and need Harry to help him, or maybe he has like broken his foot. But no, you just have to go out and get fire seeds for no reason at all. Yeah, Harry is a silent protagonist, so why couldn't he just said yes? Or yeah, sure Hagrid. But one thing I'm definitely sure about is just how beautiful this game really looks now that you are actually outside and you see the sky ahead of you. I mean, just look at it, the background is amazing. And with the waterfall echoing in the distance, this is certainly a place where people will go just to have a beautiful picnic together. Everything just works, you know? But just as outside, do you know how the inside is faring in terms of atmosphere? Well, pretty good actually. As much as I was praising outside for being quite atmospheric, this is unfortunately not a section which I deem to be more atmospheric. It's less, but still good. And the reason why is because there ain't much variety and there ain't many beautiful sounds. Sure, the waterfall is echoing in a distance and that's quite cool, but that's like the only thing, the atmospheric. The rest of the sounds as well as this environment ain't the greatest, it's just very grey and blue. And there ain't no justifications as to why these platforms are here. It's meant to be platforms for a platformer action game, and not really because it's a part of the environment from the very beginning. You know, someone created this cavern with these platforms in mind to make a game, and not really because like it was the natural thing that could be done. If you haven't noticed, I think it's about time to talk about how this game handles cutscenes. So, they're in-game cutscenes, which was something new at the time. Up to this point during this era, there was really just a computer-generated cutscene which was added in post. Although for this game, they used in-game engine to make a cutscene. Now, it has been very results. Some of these cutscenes are done really well, and for the most part, they're at least convincing. The only thing that's not really that great is the fact that these characters don't really move their mouse. They're just moving around their hands and they're talking. Which is decent, the voice acting is not awful. So yeah, overall a mixed bag with the cutscenes. They're not really bad, I just kinda wish that it would actually add some movement to their mouse. Hell, even the PlayStation game, as inferior as it is, actually does have mouth movement. So, how do you get fire seeds? Do you have to go on a big cruise, a big endeavor, or maybe a daring mission? Well, you have to get to the so-called fire seed plants, and you have to cast Flipendo to get the fire seeds out. And then you have to wait a few seconds before you can actually pick them up. They're coming out in rounds of 3, well, the 3 seeds that is. So you need to collect as many as you can, as many trees as possible. Some of them are more secretive and some others are less secretive. But in the end, you really only collect all the fire seeds that you need. You're not really going to get you have few to fire seeds. You will always have the right amount, no matter how many you may collect. But of course, collecting all of them, well... Now, I kinda just wanted Incendio to be the one spell. I mean, it is a plant after all. Why do you have to even cast Flipendo? And you're not even casting anything to keep the fire seeds from being hot. But I guess that is just something... That's just a wish. Like the Disney movie. And so, some more fire seeds in the bag or in the pocket or wherever. So anyway, after collecting a few more fire seeds, it's time for the callback, which actually ends up being a pretty great one. Do you remember in the opening when Dumbledore mentioned fire crabs? Well, here it actually is. Yes, this is an actual fire crab. Now, it's not really that dangerous, you only really cast Flipendo to knock it over. You simply have to stun it and then just go away. And this is the only appearance of this enemy. Yes, the only one. Afterwards, it never appears ever again. Now, the thing is, these fire crabs are potentially a pretty great enemy. Why couldn't they just be protecting the fire plants? Why weren't they just more of them at several other places? Especially in this location. Yeah, by the way, I do remember that I faced off against the fire crab early on, but this is the second one at this part of the game. So anyway, we have now arrived outside with lots of venomous tentaculars. Now, these venomous tentaculars are just weird to me. Why are they attached to the stone wall? And may I mind you, this is like the last part for we'll actually see these venomous tentaculars. Yes, after we're done with outside, they don't appear ever again. And the last time was to be at a stone wall, which makes absolutely no sense. I can only assume that Professor Sprout planted them there, you know, to help Hagrid so that students wouldn't be encouraged to go through here. But who knows, he sent out Harry, so anything is possible. And so after going into another room to collect some more fire seeds from the fire plant, we're now putting ourselves in massive danger as we're going to jump over this big water hole by using Flipendo to blast down these big tall pillars. Just remember to keep the timing, they do shake a little bit before they're actually falling down. But like I said, really dangerous. Now I gotta be honest, this didn't really take too much time as I did like in a quarter. Now but the thing is, despite being a pretty short part of the game, or really standard or whatnot, it's actually quite explorable. There are many holes and crevices and opportunities to unlock new secrets by simply going around. If there was no secrets, this would take a very short time and not be very interesting. But no, with all of the secrets, it adds up to be like a pretty great time. Now, one thing that can happen whenever you're making a game which has a lot of explorative elements is the fact that you are making secrets based on building a game instead of building a location where it seems like places are lived and where you can actually be. But no, since this is a magical school, you know, where you cast spells and attend spell lessons and whatnot, it actually does make sense to have a lot of secrets around. It does open up the gates to how to have a lot of secretive locations, which actually are quite fun to explore and to find out. Sure, the secrets aren't very secretive, however this was at a time, and secrets came to be more secretive later on. And let's be real, some other games had more secrets within and that was more clever. This is more meant to be an action platformer with explorative, secretive elements. And so after some more exploration and one less Flipendo casting, this section is finally over and we can finally see the entrance. And now it's time to meet up with Hagrid, who actually has something nice to give us since we collected as many fire seeds as possible. And by possible, I meant all of them. However, one thing to point out is the lack of exploration. Yeah, sure, I did say it's very explorative, and yes, I did meant that. But only when you're actually at the location. After you're finished with it, you cannot actually go back at all. You simply have to move along to the next section. It's kind of similar to the PS1 games, although a bit more freedom, since you actually have the opportunity to explore at several points. But like I said, after you're done at that location, you can never return. So meaning that you have only one chance to explore Hagrid's own house and his garden.
Great work, Harry. You've collected all the fire seeds I need. Here's a wish card for you.
Oh my
for
god.
your own collection. Come on inside, Harry. Wipe your feet now.
I was worried that he wasn't going to give me what I needed. Well, regardless, I now have Salazar Slytherin, one of the founders of Hogwarts and the most asshole-ish of the bunch. Apparently wanted them to be like the only dorm for like pro students. I can understand why, to create elites, but everyone's needs an education, right?
Put them in the fire, Harry.
Alright, now it's time.
You've done it, Harry. It's hatching.
Oh, now you've done it, Harry.
Ain't he lovely? I'll call him Norbert. He's a Norwegian ridgeback, you know.
Like the Ridge Racer?
Come, my beauty.
What?
Thanks, Harry. Here,
Whoa.
take this flute. It can be used to help some creatures sleep.
I wonder...
You'd
Oh,
best
we
get
didn't
ready
even
for
take it.
Quidditch now. Should be an exciting game. Slytherin's a tough team, but you'll show 'em, eh?
Now the reason why I show you this cutscene in its entirety is just because of how well that is made. The music is perfect, the voice acting is on point. This is one of my favorite cutscenes in the entire game for that very reason. And now it's about time to head to the Quidditch pitch for the very first game. Yes, you cannot do other things, you are simply just forced to attend the first Quidditch match against Slytherin. And how does Quidditch work? Well, I will not explain myself, I will simply just let Lee Jordan do so, the Quidditch commentator.
Pitch has 3 goals at each end. The chasers throw the quaffle and try to put it through the hoops to score.
Yes.
Watch out for the bludgers. These are charm balls that can knock you off your broomstick. 2 meters of each team try to keep them.
So basically, this is... Okay, so because I spoke a bit too much in this footage, I'll basically run down the rules. So number 1, you will have to score by throwing quaffles through the hoops. Number 2, you have to avoid the bludgers, and then the seeker, known as Harry Potter, have to catch the golden snitch, which delivers 150 points, which means that Gryffindor wins. Spoilers, we cannot lose. So, I hope you remember broomstick practice from earlier. You know what we were supposed to have before we actually chased after Malfoy? Yes, you use the arrow keys or the wasp keys in order to steer your broomstick, as well as push shift in order to gain speed. This is actually one of the most interesting things this entire game. It's supposed to last a very long time, like it does in the book and the movies. However, if you simply are good at steering and is able to catch up with the Stitch quickly, you can actually beat this within a few minutes, like less than 5. Can you imagine all the students who came to watch this match and all of a sudden within a few minutes it's completely over? I can only assume that this takes some time to set everything up. Yeah, you probably knows one thing now that the match is won. That is the fact that the Bludgers didn't follow Harry. Yeah, in the book and the movie, one of the Bludgers was cursed to actually follow Harry and then attack him. But nope, this doesn't happen in the actual movie. But that's just a nice world building. And now you will be able to play Quidditch whenever you like. And now this game is about to do something we haven't seen up to this point, and that is to catch up with the movie. Hermione greets us with winning the Quidditch match, and now she tells us a bit about the Forbidden Corridor and the fact that the last lesson of the entire game is going to begin soon enough. However, you don't really need to go to the lesson, let's just skip that. Let's just explore the entire castle. But I will warn you, this is the last opportunity in the entire game where you will actually be able to explore the castle. Because much like everything up to this point, you will just be pushed along to where the plot demands you to be. And now that you have all of the spells you can use, this is gonna be a field day. All of the secrets can now be found with what you have, and that's just great to know. Now, there's some real genuine exploring you can do. But of course, you cannot mention exploring Hogwarts if you didn't mention the two brothers Fred and George, who is right over there. But now that you've entered, what? Where are they? Where did they go? Are they ghosts? Oh wait, there they are, coming out on the burning ring of fire. And of course, gives us a wizard's card for 25 beans. What a twist! So after being forced to pay the beans, it is now time to head out and then go for the library. The first major location unlocked at this point in the game. So anyway, there are plenty of secrets here. I would say some of the biggest amounts of them. So to find them, you have to cast Alahomora at several bookshelves, and you have to cast Flipendo several switches to unlock these secrets. They aren't in plain sight, they are hidden. Now, despite the fact this is technically a free roaming bit, there's unfortunately a few things that you cannot actually do. And one of them is to go back to the training area. Yeah, you remember the training area back at the beginning of the game, the tutorial? Well, it turns out that you cannot actually access that room because they enter through a different entrance and you cannot actually gain access to the password or anything like that. Hell, you can't even search up Fred and George to ask how to actually enter it. You simply just have to remember the good old days you had in it. It is inaccessible, but what you can get access to, a montage. So anyway, let's go back to the events of the movie, and this is the first time that the plot actually mentions the Forbidden Corridor, where Snape is coming out from. That thing over there. Now we're going to have a look and hear this. Unfortunately, they don't have that much time to do much more than to head to the lesson. The very last one, mind you. That's right. After this, a tradition is going to end. And the spell's name is known as Lumos. It is a shape of a moon. And so after doing this multiple times and getting decent points, it is now time to do the final challenge of the entire game. One of the ones I look the most forward to. The Lumos challenge. Which also happens to be the first and last one with the repeated teacher. Basically, the spell works as following. Just push the left mouse button to charge the spell, and then unleash it at this gargoyle. And when you do, it is going to reveal a platform of life which you can go onto. And then you can move on throughout the rest of the challenge. You want to get ready for something very special? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh, sweet. I meant atmosphere. Just feel it. It's so good. This is actually considered to be like the fan favorite challenge, because while there has been atmosphere throughout the rest of the game, this is the first time that the atmosphere is just so incredibly thick. For seeing previous challenges, like the Flipendo challenge, the atmosphere was there, but it would be just plenty of sound effects accompanied by some music. However, this is the first time in this game where there's nothing but utter silence. It's just a piece of art, you know. And it's not just the ambient sound. It is also the environment itself. It is filled with a lot of damp colors, such as a lot of blue in the windows, as well as plenty of lit candles. Overall, it just really becomes a really complete package into what would otherwise be a kind of a boring challenge if there was nothing but music constantly. So this one is kind of puzzly. After climbing up some light platforms, which thankfully doesn't break due to the weight, which is kind of strange really, because according to the internet, light has no mass whatsoever. I'm really glad that this game came out the way that it did in terms of atmosphere, because the second game has almost no atmosphere whatsoever. For you see, while this game is based more on exploration and platforming, that game is based more around on action, and sadly, most of the action really takes away the atmosphere what that game has to offer. Hell, even in that game, Lumos is just a spell which has a timer. It doesn't really create platforms, it just opens up secret dungeons for you. So that is why I really enjoy the usage of Lumos more in this game than the previous one. And so after the gates to this gargoyle has been opened and it has been activated, it's just the camera pans over to the place where we're supposed to go, which is now up to the higher floors. Now this next secret is actually essentially if you want to get 100% of this challenge. You have to use Alohomora on this door to open it up. And then on the inside, right over here after grabbing the beans, I grabbed the next challenge star. Now, you could find it before, there was a clue, but I don't think that everyone noticed that at the time. Why do I think this atmosphere really clicks? Well, if I'm going to just talk about it, it comes down to a few things. Number one, the level design is very open-ended. The colors fit the theme really well. I mean, just look at all of them. There's like some darker elements, but it still doesn't feel hopeless. The music fits really well whenever it does happen. And the puzzles are really well executed. Sure, they may be easy, but they are actually like, it feels like there was some actual thought and design put behind the identity of this game, which makes it truly a unique one-of-a-kind experience, which later games haven't been able to replicate. Whereas the later game was meant to follow the movie. This game was just meant to establish the Harry Potter franchise for a generation of gamers. You know, those who had only seen the book or watched the movie but hadn't played the game beforehand. And I would say they pulled it off really well. Fun fact, one of the developers who was behind this game hadn't actually gained much info and the layout of this game before even making it. Already the movie. they have to basically come up with ideas on their own, which paid off really, really well in the long run. I like that the game only follows a few story beats and doesn't actually replicate the movie in game form. That would have been boring. And so, another challenge star in the bag. And you know what? The next star after this one is actually real easy to get your hands on. Because if we just head right through this little corridor, there it is. It is right there in plain sight. Oh my god, there's like an open area where the star is. That can possibly mean anything. Oh wait, it does. It's Piers! Yep, he has returned for the last time, mind you, as an enemy. Just attack him 3 times like you did before in order to beat him. And once you do beat him, the last section of this challenge will open up. Okay, so this giant castle you see right in front of you, while you do use Lumos to travel across to the other side, your mission is to actually get some bridges to open up. You have to complete a puzzle, 2 of them, so you can make it happen. And now it is time for a very fancy, unexpected reunion. Yup, it is a fellow student. I guess he has also learned Lumos, or he doesn't really know what to do or how we got here. It's never really explained, but the point is, this is the first and only time this entire game where a student is at a very specific location that progresses the plot. What is he doing here? I have no idea, and you might expect, oh, he's gonna help us to get around. But no, he can't. He simply just walks around here, minding his own business, and that's it. And so after flipping this switch, this bridge is now opening up. Huh, that's kinda strange. I was expecting you to do it 2 times, but I guess the Mandela effect just played a prank on me. Basically, were you misremembering something big? And so after a quick climb up, you will see now who I mean. And it's nearly Headless Nick, the first time we see him after he introduced us to the checkpoint at the very beginning of the Flipendo challenge, way back when. He doesn't do anything, this is just his basic hideout. But it's nice that we get to see him again. Sure, it doesn't beat PS1 Hagrid, but hey, you can't ask for everything. And now we enter the final bit of this challenge. After activating this Lumos statue, the platform appearing will now be rotating around this entire roundabout. So you basically have to wait before you actually jump over to Quirrell's place. However, this challenge is actually a bit of a throwback to the Flipendo challenge, come to think of it. Because when you fall down, it's basically just a completely black void. Now, there was a black void back in the Flipendo challenge, but with some noises. However, do you actually get somewhere else? Do you land at another floor? Or do you simply just die after you fall down? Well, considering the fact that you die when you get into the black void back then, I think it's fair to say that you are completely dead. Now maybe you go into the Shadow Rain way back when, and here you are just completely dead altogether. It is undoubtedly the most dangerous challenge of them all. Speaking of dangerous, this challenge is finally over. After so much opportunities for Harry to die, all the challenge has been completed. All of the possible points for Gryffindor, and now Quirrell will never be seen for the rest of the game. I'm sure he's speaking the truth, and he won't just appear later on in a different way. So up next is Potions class. But of course you have to go through the tedious task of talking to these son of a bitches Fred and George, and they force you once again to take your precious earned beans for a famous Witches and Wizards card. Would it be great if they could actually go get them for themselves? Anyway, speaking of which, do you wonder what would have been cool if you were to go through the same chambers as the Flipendo challenge was in? But I just sort of wanted you to have to travel through the same chambers just with something completely redone. Of course, that didn't happen, it's now in the past, but what is about to happen right here, right now, is that Harry is now going to attend Potions class. So just go down the staircase, and there you go. And so, down the dungeon the boy went, hopefully without getting a dent. The environment started to change. It became very cold, and the walls were full of mold. But alas, the boy is bold. But the teacher is not nice, for Harry couldn't use any lies. For the name of the professor, who is Professor Snape, took away points from us for being late. 3 points taken away, and now Harry is afraid of being slain. And so Harry went down to gather ingredients to claim his crown. For it is all the courage he must muster, so his performance won't be lackluster. And so after a trick, down, down, down the hole he fell. He now had to go through a living hell. But Harry didn't care, for he was going to avoid every single scare. And so he ran, despite not having coming up with a plan. But at last, after some time, he had now come up with a plan. He now felt like a true man. He now had to flip the blocks around, a huge step for mankind. Despite being in confusion, Harry felt that one thing was for certain, that Professor Snape wanted to shut down his curtain. But Harry would persist, because this was a return he didn't want to miss. Now all of the blocks were in line, and although Harry was very inclined, he would now persist and not resist. Oh, there it is, the first piece, without a single trace of its grease. And so after a few seconds of waiting and then running up the stairs, Harry now comes to a timing-based puzzle, and it is all about opening gates and flipping switches to get these platforms to move around. The first time this kind of chance actually appeared since a while back. Now it is not as linear as other parts of the game. You can actually go to different levels and get some different things. Like for instance, if you jump over to that section, you can get some beans. Kinda wish this game did a few more bits like that, you know, when you have several paths which get you to different places. And the card is a sexy lady, of course. Hey, this is an odd thing. It is a big door locked behind an Alohomora gate. That's kind of strange, isn't it? The first time this has ever actually happened. And it's just a basic flip handle switch. Yeah, that kind of ruined the surprise, really. Do you want to see something shocking? It is a long timing-based platforming challenge. Just jump like a maniac for as much as possible until you get to a safe location. More action, more excitement, more like this. Well, look at this. It is a challenge star. Yeah, you didn't expect that to happen, right? Does this mean this is a challenge? Now at this point, the Bloody Baron will be inspecting the corridors. He will not be following you. He's just going around at certain locations. That means that you actually have to play some strategy in order to stay hidden from him. Okay, so much like the Incendio challenge, this challenge is based around two parts, and now we're approaching the last part, which is all about lifting Guardian Leviosa blocks to different switches to open up the gate. And from the next part onwards, you know the Bloody Baron, well, he's going to roaming around that part instead of just this one. Because, well, yeah, if he just stayed around at this point throughout the rest of the game, well, it would be kind of pointless to actually have him as an enemy, right? So it is at this point where Lumos returns. Yes, after the challenge, it is now time to use it, and this is actually for a really good reason. After jumping over all of these blocks, I now light a Lumos statue, and these light platforms will appear. So after climbing up all of these light platforms, the core idea of this puzzle is about to begin. You see that potion ingredient in the middle? Well, you are supposed to get into there, but you cannot simply just go to there without any struggle. You actually have to think strategically about how to get in there. So now you have to search around for a solution. Well, you actually have to pull your work down there again and go down to where the Lumos statue was initially lit. And then jump across those platforms. Do you know what? Let's actually talk about the minor antagonist of this section, the Bloody Baron. Now the thing is, both Peeves and the Bloody Baron had a role in the books, where the Bloody Baron would usually put down the poltergeist Peeves when he was being mischievous. But like I said in the book, he is the only one who can actually demand Peeves to do whatever he needs. And he's not really doing anything antagonistic with it. He tells Peeves to stay quiet and to not really be much of an asshole in front of the other students. Nice role there, guys. But in this, he's an antagonist. But as a surprise, you actually do use him to progress. How exactly do you do that, you might be asking? Well, when he's passing through this gate that somehow opens, just pass right through it. Sure, it's not really that challenging, but it's at least nice that he actually does have a function instead of just being a floating, wandering, world-building-esque character. Anyway, for being a lesson in potions teaching, this doesn't actually offer much in terms of a lesson. Yes, you are gathering ingredients for a potion, but it's more of a challenge than anything. They could have said potions challenge, and that would make a ton more sense than just calling it a potions lesson. You are going through a dangerous dungeon with a dangerous ghost, which is endless pits of darkness which will devour you if you're not actually careful. How can you, Snape, consider this a lesson? Well, maybe that Snape has a hidden agenda. But it's the equivalent as in the PlayStation version, whereas in that one he's much more antagonistic. And while he is antagonistic in this game, the PlayStation version just amps up his antagonistic nature to the max. For instance, he takes Harry's book, which was from the library, which was a gift you got from Hagrid. Now in this game he doesn't actually do anything other than to just send you to a pretty lethal challenge. So I guess that's got going for it. Anyway, he takes away a few house points from Gryffindor and everyone has left to do whatever it was, that Halloween feast. So you are allowed to go there yourself without anyone. But yeah, it turns out that this Halloween feast is actually happening off screen. What is going to happen is the troll chase. You know that famous scene from the book and the movie? Well, it turns out Ron has become a bit more heroic and he's the one alerting you to get to it. And now we will actually go through a door which we have been exiting a lot of times, but it's the first time we're actually entering it. Well, they're heading right in there and Ron is making an interesting observation, that it smells. Now, it's obviously the troll, but what does the troll even smell like? Well, it's never explained, but if I just were to hazard a guess, I would see lavender. Who knows, maybe lavender smells different in the wizarding world. One of the best scenes from the book and movie is actually one of the best sections of this entire game, because it's the giant troll that you are supposed to be helping Hermione get away from. So this first bit is all about you and Ron running from it like the chase sections in Crash Bandicoot, the 1996 one. So you basically just push down the downwards key and you have to jump at certain places before avoiding certain death. And you know what? It's actually not bad. It is like the first time when it's actually really difficult. It's not just a simple cakewalk. You actually have to be on the run constantly. And in order for you to not completely fail and fall off, you actually have to follow the trail of beans which you see right in front of you. It's a lot better than the chase sections in the PS1 version, because that version the cover says too close. Although this section is the perfect difficulty in terms of everything. The collecting aspect, which is really neat and really useful. It is the speed, it is the music, it is the action. Everything just fits perfectly to become the best section of the entire game, at least in terms of action and adrenaline. Now here comes the second part. By the way, just look at all of these enemies in glass cases strewn throughout. Now that is a pretty cool attention to detail. Now Harry and Ron are cowards and just runs out when they just got in. And then they realize Hermione is stuck in there. Now it is time for the first boss fight since a while back. Well, if you can consider Malfoy a boss fight, but whatever. But who cares about that one? This one is 10 times more exciting. So much like in the source material, you have to actually raise a block so you can knock the troll out. So that is going to be Ron's part of the mission. Yours is to just flipendo as many objects as possible so they'll destroyed before they can actually hit Ron and slow down the process. You will be, and you can actually die a game over if you're not careful enough. However, while you are the one taking the damage. And with high octane music and the troll being actually sort of fast and throwing objects at you, this is undoubtedly the best section of this game thus far. Okay, well, Harry constantly shouting out Flipendo is getting kind of annoying. But that's the charm of this game. It just doesn't really outstay its welcome. And now we got a heartfelt moment with Harry, Ron and Hermione. they're forgiving each other and reconciling with a hug. And then they all head out, being best friends forever, and get 50 house points each for Gryffindor. If only that was the case. Yeah, they're talking to each other in their normal tones, they're just heading out. No teacher showing up and giving them a few house points. There's absolutely zero consequences for this happening. I kinda wish that it did, but unfortunately you guys have to envision this in your head what's going to happen afterwards. And what happens now is another Quidditch match. And the match is won, and nothing of interest happened. The cursed balls wasn't there, neither was Professor Snape, nor was Quirrell there. It was pointless to the story. It was there to justify gameplay. Now let's take a breath from all the action and let's talk to Hagrid, whom's pet dragon Norbert, who we have touched earlier in the game, has now grown up, but it's about time that he left his home and went to Romania to Ron's brother so they can raise him properly. And they have decided to help Hagrid by sending a tall tower so you can leave Norbert up there to where they will be waiting. A fantabulous environment, thick as butter atmosphere, and a special mechanic stealth. Yeah, sure, we had the Bloody Baron follow us before, but that wasn't really that he was watching, he was just passing by. So this is a genuine stealth part. In the Forbidden Corridor with Filch. So with invisibility cloak, Harry is now about to ascend the tallest tower in the entire school. But he isn't just ascending it without difficulties at all. No, this is kind of difficult in the best way possible. As throughout this entire section, you have to stay away from Filch, whom is patrolling this corridor alongside his cat, Mrs. Norris. Unfortunately, there are no changes in the actual gameplay of how the controls work. It is still an action platformer. There is no such thing as like stealth controls. Not even the sideways thing like you faced off against Malfoy with earlier in the game. But of course, it's not really that precise. But it doesn't mean there's no difficulty to it, as he's reacting to sounds. Like when you're casting a spell, for instance, as seen right here. Okay, well, at different points, not this one. Now it is all about casting different spells in different rooms, and then you have to return to the main center room in order to progress. No, at different points it's going to enter a different room by taking a shortcut, not like the door, which for some reason just shut like that. So anyway, after running up the stairs and after casting Alohomora on the door to open it up, Harry now enters a new section where you have to cast Flipendo on this switch on the wall to open the door. But Filch then blocks it. So that means you have to climb on top to get to go up there. And you are doing so by basically climbing up on this step ladder, which is for some reason there. And then you can get over it. So after yet another Flipendo switch, the door opens up and then you can get past it. And then we're jumping on the bookshelves and there we go into another corridor. Yeah, for some reason closing this door makes him think that you have to go to another place. Why do all of these doors close whenever Harry's passing by? Why can't just Filch go through them? Why not just have him chase after Harry? Anyway, let's go through this corridor and then flip this bookshelf over with Flipendo. Yeah, there's a Flipendo switch on the shelf, although it's never explained how it got there. I mean, how do you think that others would react when they actually see it? But I guess it's because no one is actually here. But if no one is actually here, why does it look so fancy, so pretty? Why are the colors so beautiful? Why is the mood just overall just a cozy time? I was caught? But that happened in a cutscene! How could I even have escaped? It doesn't let me do anything when the cutscenes actually do happen! So, after restarting at the save game book, as being the first time I actually was for a very long time, let's try to get up there without being seen. Anyway, the second attempt is successful. The switch is flipped and the gates above open up. Now we're actually going to get to a high level, and then I mean a floor higher, not just above ground. And so after flipping a switch to open up the gate to an Alohomora door, it's time to go into it and then cast Lumos on something very, very, very special, I promise you. Now there it is, the room that I talked about, that's the one right through the gate with a green big carpet. There the Lumos statue is. Just cast Lumos on it and it's going to illuminate the entire stage with this fantastic piece of music. Something which terrified a 15-year-old me. Oh, such greatness. But do you want to know the greatest thing about this section? Is that Harry is wearing the invincibility cloak, as you can see, and he even whispers the spells instead of saying them normally. It is a really nice touch. Okay, now it's time to imagine like me, full of crystals, and you are flowing above the clouds looking down on them. But then you realize that these crystals actually turns out to be diamonds, and diamonds are worth billions. So you go to the bank to acquire the amount, but then you realize this is like not really worth it in the end, because you're not actually getting anything worse, because no one in the exchanging diamonds for anything, for money or whatnot, and you begin to realize there's no point in any of this. Should you even try to earn stuff you cannot actually do much about? If it's gone forever, and it's amazing, and I don't want to understand why you would even want to delete stuff. Oh my god, you are such a mean-spirited person. And how can you even rise like a phoenix if you got no wings to carry you up? Diamonds don't matter, but light does, and light platforms will help you throughout your entire life. Sure, you will stay on the ground, but you can always use your Phoenixian wings to ascend as much light as possible until there is no tomorrow, and you don't even understand all of the ins and outs of it, but you still accept it because it's magical, it's great, it's amazing, and this is like the incredible time in your life when you realize that the sky has no limits. When you got diamonds, and when you got diamonds, you got everything! Okay, now back to the game. So this is the last section where Peeves actually does appear. You have to break open a pot using Flipendo, so the fish will focus on him instead of the opening to the top of the tower, meaning you have to stay hidden from him like usual. It's not that difficult really, but it is at least an interesting usage of Peeves. And so, after delivering the dragon to Ron's brothers, who are seemingly just silhouettes, it's time to go down the tower. Yes, you cannot actually skip this portion of the story at all. Speaking of which, this never really happened in the book or the movie. You know, where Harry was going to go down the tower, down to the Gryffindor tower. No, guess what? Instead, we get this mission where we're gonna sneak down to the bottom floor instead. He's now accompanied by his personal cat, Mrs. Norris. I don't really know how she's actually able to unlock this door. Does she even know Alohomora, or was she able to claw her way into the lock and unlock it that way? Well, it's never explained, but the only thing I know is that we have to go through the same door, and from this point onwards the difficulty increases, because now she is watching us as well. Yeah, for some reason the light platforms just stop happening, and now it's just like complete darkness down there. And then after running down this corridor, we get to the section where he went through, but we didn't because we were on light platforms. Now the aesthetics is a bit different, and so is the sound effects. Yeah, the ambient sound have now changed to a more different way. And now you have to jump on the bookcase at different points in time so that you can avoid him attacking you. Because after you've attacked him once and it's game over. But no, Filch doesn't really take you to the principal or to McGonagall or whatever. You are not losing any house points. You are simply just restarting from the very last checkpoint you took. But with that being said, this is not really something revolutionary or brand new. It's not as if the entire game changes, or it's not as if this is like a revolutionary concept. It's still somewhat easy, despite the added layer of strategy, which is really welcoming. However, it still is the idea that you simply have to avoid Filch and Mrs. Norris, and so you can get out. Now, at a certain point, they're actually bringing back nearly a Headless Nick, where he's gonna take you somewhere. But Filch doesn't actually hear him speaking to him. He's just wandering around wherever he's going. Now after you've beaten one room, he's gonna appear in another. And that is how it's going to be for the rest of this section. So anyway, now let's see how the story is doing. Up to this point, we have more or less followed the story that's somewhat accurate to the movie. And we are about to encounter the next piece of the story. That naturally being the Mirror of Erised. So after Harry has been sneaking around just a bit more, he goes into a room and he finds his parents within the mirror. This scene plays like it did in the movie. So you're not missing out on much. You're basically seeing a video game version of the same cutscene. Now we have arrived at the final section after jumping on some support beams. And it is all about lifting up this weight to open up the door so you can get out. That is actually kind of a strange way, don't you think? Why not just Alohomora the door? Well, I guess it would be kind of weird. What even is this location anyway? And so, after much time, both weights have finally been lifted and the door opens up. Yes, you are finally done with this section. Now, thankfully, Filch and Norris doesn't actually follow you. They actually run off to who knows where. Well, guess what? I don't give a care because this section is done. Now, we finally go down to the Gryffindor Tower. I just be higher Hermione. I will enjoy some chocolate, and I will. Wait a minute. That's Fred and George. What are they doing here? Well, guess what? It doesn't matter where you go or what you're doing. They're always looking for some sort of beans for something we will actually learn a bit more about. And it turns out they want to use it to play a little joke on Slytherin. How nice! How necessary for us to collect beans for you. Why couldn't you have done it yourself? Well, I guess there was just too few beans to actually go around, I guess. Maybe Harry just took them all to prevent Snape from getting hold of the Philosopher's Stone. And now, like in the movie and the book, the final stretch is all based around a couple of minigames, based on different challenges that you have already done. Now, remember that flute that Harry gave you earlier in the game? Well, now it's coming into play. You have to play some melodies on Fluffy's three heads to put them all to sleep. Now, they will wake up after a certain time, so you have to be quick about it. Play in the correct order at these three heads and you will be able to pass on to the next challenge. It is kind of stressful because Fluffy is constantly making a lot of barking and there's even a sleep meter down in the corner. And not to mention, if you don't actually speed up, you're going to be hurt. Now thankfully I passed this challenge with flying colors, as you can see. So now Fluffy has been beaten and we can now all go down this hatch. Now as for the next challenge is about Incendio, which is finally making a reappearance since the previous time we used it. So Professor Sprout has now planted this one, which is obvious. So you have to set Ron and Hermione free from the devil's snare. And how do you do it? Well, you have to basically spam Incendio as much as possible on these three plants to set them both free. While at the same time you are being attacked by vines. Sadly not by a venomous tentacula, which would be a better touch. But you cannot get everything, I guess. Well, I didn't expect myself to be this good. Like I said, this is actually not newly captured footage. This is all footage from the Let's Replay that I did a couple of years ago. And I beat this one faster than I thought. So now Harry and Ron are now safe. So let's travel up to the next section, which is all about catching the rusty key that is flying up with the other flying things to unlock the door. So of course you will have to play Quidditch in order to catch it. Obviously it's the same gameplay as Quidditch, although it's not an official Quidditch match. If you play Quidditch beforehand, well, it's going to be real easy. It is the exact same thing as the previous one. I sort of hope there will be some sort of a difference, maybe sort of addition or something like that. But no, it is the bog standard Quidditch, which is nice if you played this before, but if you were hoping something unique, well, I'm sorry dude, you guys have to look elsewhere. The music is really perfect. It is the same theme as you used for your broomstick practice beforehand. It sounds really great, it has the perfect atmosphere, there's perfect amounts of action. Now I was able to catch it. So that means we can finally move on to the very next section. Obviously, like I said, it's time for the chess game. Much like the previous one, this one can be beaten in about 1 minute, or maybe even less if you catch this look fast enough. And that is exactly what I did. The door has now been unlocked and we can move on to the next section, which is known as the big chess game.
Yes, I got it, finally! After so many hours of trial and error, I was able to get it. Okay, then he didn't insert the key.
Now, of course, with this being a vital part of this game, I'm sure we've seen multiple times when Harry and Ron have been playing wizard chess. Well, no, it was really only explained in the book, it was happening in the movie, but also very shortly, it doesn't really matter. But no, Ron has failed this game, his leg has now been hurt, and Harry now had to play the game instead of Hermione. Oh well. That did happen in the book and the movie, but it would be cool if they actually let both Harry and Hermione play this game together. But I guess since Harry's a slightly bit better than her, I guess it just had to be him. Now, this one actually took some more time than I thought it would. You had to basically time your tiles and jump at the exact same time so that you will get on the tiles, which means that these chess pieces will break into each other. Basically, think strategically. Don't do like me and just go for it. If you want to do this really, really well, that is. If you want to be a daring do, then be my guest. With only Harry and Hermione left, it's time to head into the very last room. This is obviously based around the potions lesson which Snape placed out. So you have to basically watch all of these potions being mixed around. The entrance to the last room is blocked by a magical fire, and you have to find the right potion. Now, if you find the right potion 3 times, then you will be able to pass through that fire. But pick one wrong and it's game over. But Hermione cannot go through with you at all. You simply have to go through it yourself. She's instead going to watch over Ron, so you are now on your own. And thankfully you are, because the last chamber will be a nightmare if anyone else was in it. So it turns out that the person upstairs, you see that one, is Professor Quirrell, and he is going to throw fire at you as you're going to flipendo these blocks up to him. He actually does fire quite a few times, and if you simply aren't fast enough or simply don't hide or don't grab the chocolate frogs, well, you are basically screwed. He does throw spells at you. He's even flipendoing the blocks away from the edge. Now that is something that no one else ever did, actually been putting up a fight against you. But that's probably because there hasn't really been any sort of adversary or enemy in this game at all. No one that has really been countering the things that you have been doing. Sure, some enemies have posed more of a challenge, but almost none of them is a direct threat to you. So well done, you guys, you did well. Now, of course, it would be real annoying and a mess if we actually did flipendo back the blocks when they were placed there. So once they have been flipendoed at the right place, well, he doesn't actually touch them anymore. So now go for the big blocks first and then the small box second. Then you climb up on both of them to basically end this fight temporarily. And the next and last big battle to eventually defeat the one, the only, the one who shall not be named, Lord Voldemort. Huh, it's the Mayor of Erised. But what is it doing down here? It's not going to assist us in this fight, right? Well, think again, because Harry is now going down to the mirror to check into it. and it shows the truth that Harry is the one holding the Philosopher's Stone in his pocket, but it only appears after he has looked into the mirror itself. Now Quirrell appears once again as he wants the stone itself, but it turns out it's not actually Professor Quirrell, it's the one, the only, the one who shall not be named. Voldemort. He's going to do anything possible to kill Harry. And even if it means twisting his own head, oh my god! And then Harry's trying to run away, but unfortunately Voldemort is blocking the exit with a ring of fire. So now an epic and perfect final battle begins. So Harry have to use the Mirror of Erised by using Flipendo so that this mirror is going to reflect back Voldemort's attacks. Do that a couple of times, and then you have to basically use these stone pillars in order to knock them over on him. Yeah, I think now Quirrell thinks, well, Voldemort as well, think it was a bad idea to teach us this very spell. But was it Quirrell, or was it Voldemort? So after a fancy fireworks show, Harry now falls unconscious on the floor, and then Professor Dumbledore shows up. The only time since the first few sections at the stairs he actually makes an appearance. And now a final cutscene happens, which basically wraps everything up with this movie as well as this game.